Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Thursday, February 20th, 2020. Roland is off today. I'm your host, Dr. Avis. The knives were out during last night's debates, with the main target being Michael Bloomberg. We'll show you some of the highlights. Former Trump associate Roger Stone has been sentenced to 40 months in prison for lying to Congress and witness tampering. I'll break it down with the panel. We have an update to the Syracuse University protests. Chancellor Kent Severud has left the interim suspensions filed against the Not Again SU protesters. He's lifted those suspensions. We'll also look at the impact of African-American music on the entire music industry and give you a preview of the new Museum of African-American Music opening this summer in Nashville. Plus, a new black doll in the image of Ella Fitzgerald. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
Last night's Democratic presidential debate proved to be the most contentious one so far. Bloomberg made his first appearance. Biden and Warren had a lot to prove. Sanders was Sanders, and Klobuchar, well, she was Klobuchar. Here are some of the highlights.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
I actually welcomed Mayor Bloomberg to the stage. I thought that he shouldn't be hiding behind his TV ads. I don't think you look at Donald Trump and say, we need someone richer in the White House.
Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood in an industrial Midwestern city. Let's put forward somebody who's actually a Democrat. Look.
One thing that I'm really worried about, embarrassed about, was how it turned out with stop and frisk. It got out of control.
And it's not whether he apologized or not, it's the policy. The policy was abhorrent, and it was, in fact, a violation of every right people have.
I have no tolerance for the kind of behavior that the Me Too movement has exposed. In my foundation, the person that runs it's a woman. 70% of the people there are women. In my company, lots and lots of women have big responsibilities. They get paid exactly the same as men.
And I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
There's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them.
We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed and discriminated against. That's not what we do as Democrats. Mr. Vice President.
I believe in democratic socialism for working people, not billionaires.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What did I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much.
Yeah, well,
and I pay all my taxes. And I'm happy to do it because I get something for it.
And Mitch McConnell, I've been the object of his affection and the president's affection. The way he's gone after me, this new Republican Party, after me, after my son, after my family. I don't need to be told I'm a friend of Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell has been the biggest pain in my neck in a long, long time.
And that's so what we are saying, Pete, is maybe it's a time for the working class of this country to have a little bit of power in Washington rather than your billionaire campaign contributors.
All right, look, first of all,
I know. And if there are a few people who make ugly remarks, who attack trade union leaders, I disown those people. They are not part of our movement.
But leadership is about what you draw out of people. It's about how you inspire people to act.
I have an idea of how we
move
can
us forward.
stop sexism on the internet. We could nominate a woman for candidate for President of the United States.
Mayor Buttigieg really has a slogan that was thought up by his consultants to paper over a thin version of a plan that would leave millions of people unable to afford their health care. It's not a plan, it's a PowerPoint. And Amy's plan is even less. It's like a Post-it note, insert plan here. Bernie,
I'm more of a Microsoft Word guy.
I must say I take personal offense since Post-it notes were invented in my state.
But you're staking your candidacy on your Washington experience. You're on the committee that oversees border security. You're on the committee that does trade. You're literally in part of the committee that's overseeing these things. And we're not able to speak to literally the first thing about the politics of the country to ourselves.
Are you trying to say that I'm dumb, or are you mocking me here, Pete?
I'm saying that you shouldn't trivialize
I made
that
an
knowledge.
error. People sometimes forget names. He's basically saying that I don't have the experience to be president of the United States. I have passed over 100 bills as the lead Democrat since being in the U.S. Senate. I am the one, not you, that has won statewide in congressional district after congressional district.
but let's just be clear, missing a name all by itself does not indicate that you do not understand what's going on.
So on yesterday's show, Roland predicted that Elizabeth Warren would use this opportunity to get back in the game.
When you're running, it's about how do I set myself apart from the other candidates.
Right.
You have Joe Biden, who is dependent upon large donors. You have Pete Buttigieg, who's dependent upon large donors. Again, when you look at what Sanders, how he has been able to rise, when you look at what made Elizabeth Warren, who really became a United States Senator, when you look, it was looking at Wall Street big money interests. That still resonates among lots of people. But again, the other thing I think is going to happen tonight, and this is where, again, I keep bringing up Warren for this reason. Vice President Joe Biden wrote the 1994 crime bill.
Exactly.
Senator Bernie Sanders, even though he spoke on the floor about the negative aspects of the crime bill, he still voted for it. Mayor Pete Buttigieg has his own issues in terms of African Americans in the police department in South Bend, Indiana. Senator Amy Klobuchar has to answer to the questions when it comes to she's prosecuted. Bloomberg, stop and frisk, redlining comments, housing, homelessness, all of that sort of stuff. Again, the one person who can go after all of them tonight on all of those issues is Warren.
She's got the Indian thing and Native American nonsense going on. She drove. Yeah, but
that's not. First of all, that's
Who gets tested
no.
for being a
That is not. Hold on. No. That is not a policy issue.
There we go.
Everybody else. I'm telling you tonight. I'm telling you. Tonight's debate and Tuesday's debate. I'm telling you right now. Tonight's debate and Tuesday's debate could very well change the fortunes up or down for any candidate.
Well, Roland was right. Warren struck a lot of blows to everyone on stage last night, and one of the big ones was to Bloomberg. She shredded him for his treatment of women.
Senator Warren, you've been critical of Mayor Bloomberg on this issue.
Yes, I have, and I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. That just doesn't cut it. The mayor has to stand on his record, and what we need to know is exactly what's lurking out there. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is
Let me
that?
finish.
How many is that?
None of them accuse me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me put, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want to be clear. Some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
Senator, no.
Is that right?
Senator, the company and somebody else, in this case, a man or a woman, or could be more than that, they decided when they made an agreement that they wanted to keep it quiet for everybody's interest. They signed the agreements, and that's what we're going to live with.
I'm sorry. No, the question is, are the women bound by being muzzled by you? And you could release them from that immediately, because understand, this is not just a question of the mayor's character. This is also a question about electability. We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed and discriminated against. That's not what we do as Democrats.
So the next debate is February 25th in Charleston, South Carolina. Joining me on the panel tonight to talk about last night is Reese Colbert, Black Women's Views, and Erica Savage Wilson, host of Savage Politics podcast. So that was an interesting night, was it not, ladies?
Woo, popcorn and wine now. I had a drinking game. Whoever says I'm the one. And I had Amy in mind because she is, I'm the one. Yeah, a little bit moderate.
Yeah. Well, you know, and also I'm just wondering, where's your summer camps?
Yeah, because I need one of those.
I need a summer camp.
Yeah,
very
I definitely need one of those.
Yeah,
we did. And then the other thing, too, is that, you know, the conversation is so billionaire. We've not expanded that to be millionaires. Bernie Sanders is not a working class individual.
No.
Elizabeth Warren. Oh, at all. No. I mean, they're senators. They're very well taken care of. They'll be well taken care of after they exit.
For the rest of their lives.
For the rest of their lives. And I think that the one thing kind of like we have to pull back and dial back on this conversation is really there is a real, there is a wealth gap, and that there is not a real relatability to folks who are trying to make it day to day, and folks who are able to afford a third home, having two homes.
Well, that's true. But you know what's really interesting is we, you know, if we went backwards, we did used to talk about millionaires and billionaires in the last election cycle. But now all of a sudden we only talk about billionaires.
Sip that tea.
And you know what we haven't been talking about is poverty. We haven't been talking about homelessness. We haven't been talking about rent. We haven't been talking about a variety of issues. Last night was a great slugfest if you're into people duking it out, but it was so light on substance. I mean, we rehashed the Medicare for All thing. We didn't break any new ground there. We didn't talk about foreign policy that I can recall.
No.
This was a debate in Nevada. And you had a Latina woman who was from Telemundo, and we barely talked about even Latino issues.
Well, Mexico's president.
And we talked about that. That was poo-pooed, and Miss Millie. You know, who cares if I don't know the name of the Mexican president? And I thought that was a little disrespectful, how they just kind of like poo-pooed her every time she talked. The moderators had no control whatsoever. It was just a complete shit show, just to be perfectly honest. But the thing about it is that we continue to talk less and less about substance, about what is making the Democrats better than the Republicans.
Absolutely, and all that and talking about what makes the Democrats that real differentiator is that you're talking about, didn't talk about things of substance, the census 2020.
Yeah.
So they just started rolling out commercials this week around it. I've been to summits, but we've not had, and you're talking about poverty as well. I know the Bishop Dr. William Barber, who is a tremendous voice.
Right.
He is constantly on Twitter talking about the 140 million low wealth and poor folks. And as you said, like that was not brought into the conversation specifically, and homelessness is how that relates to the census. This first decennial census is going to be the first census where it is 80% digital. And so, and you're talking about those communities. We have communities that are on reservations that have P.O. boxes as addresses, things that really do impact the ways in which folks build political power. Those things were not discussed last night. And so when you talk about missing the mark, when you're talking about actually sustaining democracy along with issues, disinformation campaign.
Right.
You know, Trump rolled out his team, his re-election team rolled out a tweet, I believe, around, well, listen, you want to click this link so you'll be the first one, so we'll be the first ones to get counted for the census. Like, what kind of shit is that? It does not actually roll out until the middle of March, around March the 12th. There are several different phases of that. So those are the things when we're talking about a big tent party. I agree with you, absolutely receive that. Those are the things that really needs to be threaded in conversations at that level so that folks that are watching and paying attention and that are really getting involved with democracy now understand that it is important, not just hearing it from us and hearing it kind of around the table, but hearing it at that level.
But it seemed to me, honestly, that everybody was in their feelings about Bloomberg. That's really what last night was about. That's what last night was about. It's about, we've been out here for God knows how long, going every damn nook and cranny and we can kind of go to trying to get votes, trying to raise money, and you're going to collude your way up in here in the last minute and just throw bags of cash. And I really feel like there was just this cathartic need to jump them last night. That's what I felt we watched.
That did happen.
But how many votes did they steal from Michael Bloomberg in Nevada?
0.
Yeah, those 36.
How many votes did they steal from Bernie Sanders in Nevada?
0.
Yeah.
Who has the votes to give? Bernie Sanders. So mission not accomplished. I understand that, a lot of them were releasing. Okay, Amy and Pete, Elizabeth Warren unloaded on everybody. But what you need, if we look at the aggregate polling data in Nevada, 30% is what Bernie Sanders is polling at right now. That's a blowout. Okay, the next person is Joe Biden at 16%. Then you have Pete Buttigieg at 14%, Warren at 14%. So there is a lot of ground to make up in Nevada, and these folks need a win in Nevada. People are thinking about taking out Bloomberg for Super Tuesday. You might not make it to Super Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like, even when they were interviewing folks after the debate, specifically young people, you think about the population of young people that they have in that state, they were not moved. And it was at least 90% of those people were for Sanders. And so Biden actually dropped because he was 17%. So he's actually dropping, so which is not a good sign. And especially when we're looking, as you said, Super Tuesday, we've got, 25 states, I think it is?
16 contests.
14. And then American Samoa, the expat folks, expat folks. And so when we're looking at those particular states, 3 out of that whole 14 or that collection have the largest population of African Americans. So if something is not done in between now and by the time we get to South Carolina, you'll probably see some people rolling up because they just don't have a path.
And I just didn't see the focus on the fact that you have to survive Nevada. People are going to get blown out in South Carolina, even though Sanders is certainly gaining on Joe Biden. Tom Sawyer was unscathed because he wasn't on the debate stage.
But he's South Carolina.
He has a pretty decent number in Nevada as well, and then he's also gaining quite a bit in South Carolina while Biden is trying to get other places. So I understand the need to unload on Bloomberg, but they had bigger fish to fry, and that's Bernie Sanders.
When will they ever see that? I mean, this is that was the 7th, I believe, debate? It's interesting to me that how there doesn't seem to be a very good strategy from any of them to really lay a blow. I've not seen one debate where I felt like someone really went for Bernie. How come he keeps falling under the radar?
Yeah, I don't know. And then even like with Elizabeth Warren, there was something that she said, but it wasn't to him. So there's almost like this gentleman's agreement, so to speak.
Oh, it's not working out well for them.
For none of them. I mean, had it not been for Bloomberg pointing out, I think, what a lot of us know around Bernie Sanders not being this revolution leader that he says that he is, I mean, like, I think that may have been the first time that people were like, oh, okay, then, well, you know, there's a reason now that maybe I don't connect with Bernie in the way that I feel like I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of like, that's really concerning for me because it makes me consider, well, what is it that you all are holding out on? It can't be that you're actually afraid of him. What is it that you're holding
Well,
back?
maybe they are. I mean, when, you know, he doesn't take responsibility for the behavior of his trolls online.
Right.
You know, every time he says what he has to say as a politician does, I disavow. You kind of remind me about how Trump handled the whole KKK thing, right? When, you know, I disavow. I disavow. But then when it comes to really taking responsibility, he always undercuts that by saying, but I don't really think they're my people.
Right. And in Pete's defense, I will say, I think Pete had a strategy to go after Sanders, but Amy was like, you know, so he had to kind of like handle that part. But my theory, the only thing I could think of is that, and we heard this in the last question where they talked about, should the person who wins the plurality of the votes become the nominee? And everybody was like, hell no, we need to let this process play out what it is, right? And so I think at this point, perhaps they just feel like, okay, Sanders support, you can't breach that. So they're all trying to get to second place. And they're hoping that, you know, we have a contested convention, the superdelegates are gonna bail them out, and they'll become the nominee because nobody has a first place, I'm trying to win the nomination with the most majority pledge delegate strategy on that stage.
No, because, I mean, you got Pete that's going after Amy for her people, and then you've kind of got the Bloomberg and the Biden, which are kind of like the fallbacks.
Right.
So, yeah, it is a bit concerning. There's not really anybody that has a clear and focused message, and so I just hope people are really paying attention to that.
Do you think there needs to be a backroom conversation someplace and say, some of y'all ain't got a path, get the hell out?
Do you think, no, I don't even think that the Democrats are even strong enough to have that conversation. I mean, you know, we just think about, what was the guy who's been running since 2017, like, just dropped out, like, maybe a month ago?
Oh, you're talking about Hickenlooper or Bennett?
No, not Bennett. He's been running since 2017. John, just somebody who was taking up space.
Delaney.
So, yes, John Delaney, yeah. So, it would have been nice for that conversation to have been had, I think, a few months ago. So I think that in the interest of kind of like television ratings and things of that nature is probably just going to continue to play out the way that it is now.
And I think that there is an incentive to stay in, right? A lot of people see the benefit of having name recognition. Certainly Bernie Sanders has benefited from that. Joe Biden has benefited from that. You know, if you have the money to continue on, then sure, why not? Other than your dignity, if I'm not losing. But, you know, people might be trying to kind of, you know, get some leverage. They're meeting lots of people. They're meeting donors and things like that. Look at Andrew Yang. He dropped out.
I was just getting ready to say, Yang was able to parlay that into a contract with CNN.
Like that.
And then when you look at his background, you know, I kind of thought he was more accomplished than what I actually read. I was like, what?
Well, I know he's rich, right? He's a successful businessman.
Well, he's the owner. I don't even know that I was unimpressed.
Okay.
But you know, he actually runs. It's nothing wrong with a nonprofit. He runs a nonprofit. He used to manage like a test taking facility. So it's not. I thought he was like this huge big tech guy. He really isn't.
Yeah. We could say the same thing for Peter. So it just really, you know, anybody that has the kahunas to run. So
right. Absolutely. So we still have a lot more drama to go, ladies.
Yes.
So we'll be back with more Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a minute.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. Let's join Reverend Dr. Jackie Hood Martin as she engages others to think like a leader. Are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? Well, you can join her online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. She'll be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. The offer expires on February 28th. To register or start the online course, go to www.livetolead.com/Leesburg. livetolead.com/Leesburg. Again, it is it's an online leadership course that you want, and it's called How Successful People Think. And so the deadline is February 28th. And so livetolead.com/Leesburg.
You have the ability. Now apply yourself. Educator Benjamin Mays.
So earlier today, Trump's longtime friend Roger Stone was sentenced to 40 months in prison for lying to Congress and witness tampering. Of course, he's requesting a new trial. Debate over the recommended sentence for Stone by prosecutors and Trump's subsequent tweets complaining that his friend was being treated unfairly has raised questions over whether the White House has been meddling with the independence of the Justice Department. I don't think there's many questions. I think it's pretty clear, right? Let's talk about that with the panel. So I was pretty surprised to see the 40 months. To me, it seemed to be in line with the revised recommendations.
Yes.
So I'm like, is all this pummeling and bullying and extra legal intimidation that the president is engaged in, it seems to, at the end of the day, continue to have his intended effect.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. I read a thread on the back and forth between, the U.S. attorney and the judge, Judge Jackson, and they step through it where, they talk about the enhancement and they go at one point at a time. And the U.S. attorney actually wasn't even protesting the the initial sentencing memo. So they stepped all the way through that up into the point to where they basically got to the original 7 to 9 years that was recommended, and then all the people resigned over because of the edited memo. But then the judge still, kind of had a little bit of mercy and this, that, and the other. And so she, to me, was always a little lighter on Stone, like even with him doing that Target social media post and things like that. Yeah. So they step through it, but I do realize that, they step through these things when it comes to these white collar, right? And these defendants. But then they always rationalize their way back down. Black men, Latino men, women, etc., we don't get that mercy and that grace. We don't get that provisions. And so that's what I think it just highlights, again, the fact that we have two separate justice systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And highlights privilege, too. And just thinking about who the Attorney General is, the top cop, William Barr. William Barr is arguably a person who has definitely championed Trump's agenda. He's made speeches to say as much. So I think that what this also shows us, and when we're thinking about white-collar crimes, like during this tenure of this regime, have been prosecuted at the lowest rate that it has historically. When we look at all of that and we think about criminal justice reform, and we're thinking about the First Step Act, anything that this regime does is to benefit them. When you think about the clemency, all of the people that were pardoned, and think about the number of people who inflicted harm through white-collar crime. And so they're, kind of like the framing of this, or it looks like, or it could be like, hell no, this is what it is. Trump is using his bully pulpit to benefit him, his friends, and those people that fit the profile, which are largely white men, to accomplish whatever it is that he wants to accomplish.
Absolutely. He's letting out all of these people who were found guilty of corruption.
Yeah.
But I thought he was this big corruption fighter. What happened?
Talking about with Ukraine?
With Ukraine. I thought, he wanted to fight corruption.
Yeah, absolutely not. And just really lowering the bar so that people really, and just like in an authoritarian regime, understand corruption to just be a part of life. And I think that, as you pointed out with Black life, we are very much so accustomed to two justice systems, right? But for this to be playing out collectively in a way and in a position where folks really held on to the White House as being this mythical West Wing type episodic thing, people are really seeing that you get a person that is actually what we know them to be in the Black community.
Right.
This is daily life for Black folks.
Right.
This is the shit we've been talking about for centuries and centuries. So I think this is playing out in the way that we understand it to be in Black life, which is privilege always manifests itself.
And at the same time, you have Bill Barr out here, you know, feigning that he is so distressed.
I don't believe
he's
that
so
for a
hurt.
second.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nope.
he's about to resign.
Nope.
Lies, lies
CBS,
on top
NPR,
of lies.
CNN, stop running that stuff.
Yeah.
Stop. It is to me, that really kind of like furthers the trauma.
Right.
To even, this man gives speeches on the regular talking about unitary executive theory, where really everything needs to go through the president. He is in lockstep. Mitch McConnell, Trump, and all of the Republicans are in lockstep with ensuring that white power does stay in power.
Right.
So the media really too is done such a piss poor job, and to further inflame, to make it seem as though he is somehow apologetic about what's happening.
Yeah.
Please, you made it happen, bro.
Yeah.
And I think the media they cannot help themselves. They have to try to instantly rehabilitate Republicans, in particular Trump administration officials. They're trying to make John Bolton out to be a hero.
Yeah.
You know, when he could have testified to Congress, but he's out shilling his book.
Right.
You know, and so they always have that inclination to try to give them benefit of the doubt, you know, during the impeachment on background. Oh, these Republicans really think that he's guilty and this, that, and the other. Stop, like you said, stop doing it.
Right.
It's complete bullshit. We're sick of hearing it. Hold people accountable. If you want to resign, guess what? Do what the other attorneys did and resign.
Right.
But you groveled, William Barr groveled for that job. He advocated for that job, and he is implementing his white nationalist agenda. That trumps tweets, okay?
Yeah.
So he's not unnerved by that when he gets to sit up there and continue to be a part of a Department of Justice that cages kids, that mistreats immigrants, and he has this new war on drugs that people aren't even talking about.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So he's implementing his agenda, and all this other stuff is just misdirection so that we aren't paying attention to that. I'm not buying it for 1 second.
Absolutely, and this is the same attorneys general that is going after Black women prosecutors. You're talking about your Gardners in St. Louis. You're talking about your Foxes. You're talking about Marilyn Mosby. You're talking about Rachel Collins. You're talking about all of these people who are progressive folks, who are states attorneys generals, who are circuit attorneys that are really doing the justice of not necessarily locking people up, but especially Black and brown folks that are impacted by these racist policies, to offer some type of restorative justice, to offer rehabilitation instead of jail sentences. And then you're talking about the same person that has this mandate of ICE trucks, military-style trucks. You know, I'm a veteran. There is no need for a tank to be in the streets. Military-style trucks rolling out in sanctuary cities to inflict terror on folks that are not documented Americans. So I agree, like Reese, there's no way in hell that he feels bad about anything that Trump's doing, and for the press and media to continue to cover it as such and to not even call into question who this person is, what he represents, what he's been in lockstep with, is really doing an injustice.
It is. And I'm wondering how, this is what makes the election to me so high stakes for me. Because if he's doing all this now, can you imagine what it'd be like if he won another term?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about re-election ever again?
Yeah. I don't think he's worried about it right now, to be honest with you. I mean, where's Lindsey Graham in calling Bill Barr's ass in there and saying you need to testify and you need to explain why you had high-level officials resign? Why you have obstruction of justice that's happening on Twitter? Why are you personally intervening in investigations? He didn't have the balls to answer that question when Kamala Harris asked him about it. Bring him back in there and make him answer these questions. What he knows is that right now, the congressional branch, which is, you know, at least the Senate is run by Republicans, has abdicated their constitutional responsibility. So he can do whatever the hell he wants to do.
Right.
Even right now.
Yep. Well, I think March 31st, he has to go in and answer some questions, so we'll see what's happening right now. But I believe that really was the impetus for the Kabuki theater that we're watching right now. He's trying to lay a groundwork so he can say, well, look, I'm trying to do my job.
Yeah,
right. So there's an update to the story we've been telling you about out of Syracuse University. Students have been protesting the university's handling of over 26 racist, anti-Semitic, and bias-related incidents that have occurred at or near the school since early November. The protesters began occupying one of the buildings on campus on Monday. School officials placed more than 30 #NotAgainSU organizers under interim suspension on Tuesday morning for remaining in the building past closing, allegedly violating the campus disruption policy. 23 students were protesting in the building as of Wednesday. Also on Wednesday, Chancellor Kent Severud lifted the interim suspensions filed against protesters, saying, "These students are afraid they will be arrested, and I am not going to let students be arrested and forced out." So where do we go from here? Let's bring in the panel. You know, what's happening in Syracuse is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, you know, what happens now that you have students that are trying to protest, but they find themselves running against the rules, which oftentimes happens in protest, right?
That's the point. Right. And this is, I think that this is important that it's happening because we are benefactors of so many people who did the same thing and even in a much greater way with much greater constraints, right?
Right.
So it was literally life or death. And I think what every generation needs to understand is that there is a fight that has to continue. I think it is very unfortunate that they are really, and this is just what it is, particularly along with Black and people of color lives, is that to have to face white supremacy and not even be have matriculated from your school yet and be in your job. But this is what that is. And then shame on Syracuse, but understand that we're not talking about the South now. We're talking about Syracuse, New Jersey, where you had 26 racist incidents happen, but then you juxtapose with who's actually being punished and the way that they're being punished, right? So I think that these are important lessons for those students, again, to understand that this is kind of the legacy of the fight that has to continue, because they have to be very mindful of the students that are coming behind them. But then also to understand that protest met with other pieces does affect change. It does actually call leaders to the carpet, and that's just something that every generation has to continue in that vein of.
What's happened with, have y'all read what's happened with the actual perpetrators of these? Have they caught any of them? If so, what's happened to them?
Yeah, I've read that they found a couple of them. They were disciplined, but that was very hush-hush, right? I mean, that didn't come out until after. Now they're trying to kind of CYA right now.
Right.
But I think it's very telling what is considered disruption.
Right.
Disruption is people peacefully protesting in a building, not white supremacy, violence against people of color, against students. That is not an environment that any student should be subjected to, period.
Right.
But that's not disruptive enough for the people that think that you need to write tickets and you need to, suspend people and all this other kind of stuff. And I think that the chancellor did kind of the right thing, because he was like, well, for now, I will lift these suspensions. For now, I'll use my discretion. That is not an unequivocal message of support with these students.
Right.
That is not an unequivocal message of support of we're going to make these changes, these tangible changes right now. So he needs to be held even more accountable. This is kind of like lip service right now. It's like putting a Band-Aid on it, probably hoping that things will go away. And I'm so sick of people wanting us, and I mean, I'm not there, but you know what I mean, Black people, to protest in a way that doesn't offend their sensibility.
Right.
Even though us walking around in a hostile environment offends our state of being.
Right.
So we need to start trying to bridge that understanding where people understand that white supremacy is disruptive to us.
Right.
And that should not be okay with you.
Absolutely. And I don't think that that's something that's going to be solved anytime soon, because white fragility, right? Even when we look at the way that, and this has been brought up over and over again, the way our primaries are constructed, you're talking about major polling was done on two of the whitest states, right? Whose delegate count, I mean, when you think about South Carolina, when you think about the states that have the largest population of Black folks, it does not even, it's not equal. Some of the states blow them out. And so it is that white fragility. It is making sure that things are tailored around whiteness and white sensitivity. So, for the students, I hope, again, that this is something that they just really kind of understand that as unfortunate as it is, this is actually a part of Black life, and that they are able to really push forward in ways that really do, especially with the advent of social media, does call, attention to what's happening in Syracuse, as I just want to continue to point that out, that this is not something that is regional, that this is something that is all across our nation.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, we've been having hate crimes, for example, go up in this nation every year since this thing was running for president. So it is something that proliferates our culture, and I'm hoping that the chancellor bears out some real punishment to the perpetrators.
Yeah.
Because the only way you stop this is you make an example out of people.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that they have enough kahunas to do that. So we're going to take a break. For real, I'm not holding my breath either. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, a look at the impact of African American music on all music.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
I'm Greg Carr, teach at Howard University, and today, for Black History Month, I'm going to be reading a poem by the first African American to serve as Poet Laureate for the Library of Congress, the great Robert Hayden. The poem, Renegade, Renegade. Runs, falls, rises, stumbles on from darkness into darkness, and the darkness thicketed with the shapes of terror, and the hunters pursuing, and the hounds pursuing, and the night cold, and the night long, and the river to cross, and the jack-o'-lanterns beckoning, and blackness ahead, and when shall I reach that somewhere morning and keep on going, and never turn back, and keep on going? Renegade, renegade, renegade. Many thousands rise and go. Many thousands crossing over old mythic north, old star-shaped yonder Bible city. Some go weeping and some rejoicing, some in coffins and some in carriages, some in silks and some in shackles. Rise and go and fare you well. No more auction block for me. No more driver's lash for me. If you see my Pompey, 30 years of age, new breeches, plain stockings, Negro shoes. If you see my Anna, likely young mulatto branded E on the right cheek, Aura on the left, catch them if you can and notify a subscriber. Catch them if you can, but it won't be easy. They'll dart underground when you try to catch them. Plunge into quicksand, whirlpools, mazes. They'll turn into scorpions when you try to catch them. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. North Star and Bonanza Gold, I'm bound for freedom, freedom bound, and oh, Louisiana, don't you cry for me. Renegade, renegade, rises from their anguish and their power, Harriet Tubman, woman of earth, whip-scarred, a summoning, a shining, mean to be free. And this was the way of it, brethren. Brethren, way we journeyed from Cape to Can. Moon so bright, no place to hide, to cry up and the paddle rollers riding. Hound dogs belling in the bladed air, and fear starts a mumbling. Never make it, we'll never make it. Hush that now. And she's turned upon us, leveled pistol, glinting in the moonlight. Dead folks can't jaybird talk, she says. You keep on going now, or you die. Wanted, Harriet Tubman, alias the General, alias Moses, stealer of slaves, in league with Garrison, Alcott, Emerson, Garrett, Douglas, Thoreau, John Brown, armed and known to be dangerous. Wanted, reward, dead or alive. Tell me, Ezekiel, oh, tell me, do you see male Jehovah coming to deliver me? Shh. Who thou calling in the ghosted air? 5 times calling to the haints in the air. Shadow of a face in the scary leaves. Shadow of a voice in the talking leaves. Come, ride on my train. Oh, that train, ghost story train, through swamps and savannas, movering, over trestles of dew, through caves of the wish, midnight special on a sable track, movering. First stop mercy, and the last hallelujah. Come, ride on my train. Mean to be free.
There's no question that African American music has impacted every other form of music in America. Thanks to the National Museum of African American Music, scheduled to open in Nashville this summer, music lovers everywhere will be able to trace the history of African Americans' contributions to musical genres spanning generations. Everything from spirituals and gospel to blues and jazz to R&B and hip hop. Joining me to talk about the educational experience is Henry Beecher Hicks, Chairman and CEO of the National Museum of African American Music. Hello there, Mr. Hicks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I am great. So this is such exciting news that there will be a specific museum that's going to really pay homage to the groundbreaking work that our creativity has given the world. Could you tell us a little bit about this new museum?
Absolutely. I said it's about time, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll be right in the heart of downtown Nashville, 56,000 square feet. It's a $60 million project. It's been in development for more than 20 years. And we are finally about to open to the public here just this coming Labor Day. It will deal with, as I like to say, everything from slave songs to hip hop and everything in between. So we'll really tell a story of the African American contribution to American music and culture, starting right at 1619 and then going all the way up through the present day. So whatever your favorite is, whatever your jam is, we'll cover it in the museum.
Oh my goodness, that is exciting. People need to be starting to plan their trips right now. No.
Absolutely.
You know what?
A better party to be at than where we'll be on Labor Day.
You know, that's a good point. So I'm thinking, are you going to have like live performances there? Are you going to have this big grand opening with music and historic museums right in the place?
Yeah, absolutely. All kinds of events are being planned, and you know we're keeping it just a little bit hush hush at the moment. But over the next few weeks, we'll roll out more details. We're going to start right with our I will say this: we'll start with our Celebration of Legends event, which will be held for the 7th time, actually early. So May 28th is when we'll do that, and then going forward right up through the grand opening itself, which will be Labor Day weekend. So more details to follow.
Now, I'm just wondering, really, you know, how popular this is going to be, not just in this country, but I believe as a draw for people all around the world. When you look at what happened here in Washington, D.C. with the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture, it became the most visited museum in the entire world after its opening. Are you expecting a similar level of success with this museum?
Well, we certainly hope so. I mean, it's really difficult to predict exactly how many people and how popular it will be. What I will say is that last year, 16 million people visited Nashville, and we really think that this museum will be a big addition to the tourism scene. And in particular, we expect that it will draw music lovers from around the country and around the world.
Absolutely.
And will be one more reason specifically for African Americans to come and hang out with us in Nashville.
I completely agree. I mean, I am someone who loves to travel all over, and I don't care where I've been in the world, whether it's Europe, whether it's the continent, whether it's the Pacific, wherever I am in the world, the reflection of American culture that I see is our culture specifically. And and to drill down even more than that, it is often our musical genius that I see reflected everywhere and people seeking to emulate it. And so, you know, when you think about the international impact, it's been incredible.
Right. I mean, and that's the story. I mean, one of the things that I think has been, you know, underreported in American culture is just how significant African Americans, roles African Americans play in our culture. And that is specifically true when it comes to music. And there are many, many examples of that. Folks who have borrowed from our culture and from our genius to create forms of music such as rock and roll. And, folks like Mick Jagger and the Beatles certainly give credit to, and even Elvis Presley gave credit to African Americans for influencing the music that they shared with the world. And so that is true across any genre, any period of time. And we really want to make sure this museum really gives the African American creators and geniuses and the credit that they deserve. And so we'll highlight everyone and the excellent contributions they make to music, but especially those African American artists. And the context, one of the things that's important to us in this museum is that we are not focused on genre as much as many museums might be. We really are placing this music, placing this culture in a historical context. So in the 1700s, what was American life like? And specifically, what was African American life like? Very different than the way it is today. Mm-hmm. And so that difference comes out in that expression of American life comes out in the music that we share. And so we will make sure that comes through in the way the visitor experiences the music in the museum.
Oh, that is awesome. Are there going to be like some hands-on exhibits? Like, can I try to sing when I'm there?
You can. In fact, we're expecting that you will and that you'll do great. Yes, there'll be more than 20 interactives through the museum. So we're really trying to make this a modern expression of a museum, a place where, I hope that families of all ages will want to come and to share in the experience of music, but also a place where young people will want to come and just hang out, not just when mom or dad brings them to the museum, but where they want to come and hang out and learn and listen and play and have a good time. So we're trying to make it a place where folks from all walks of life will want to come and learn with one another and learn something and yet go home patting their foot and smiling and maybe even beatboxing. And yes, you can sing.
Oh, thank you. I don't know that I really can sing, but I will definitely give it a try.
I got you. I'm your backup.
As long as you got some auto-tune in there, a sister's good, okay?
I got you. No worries.
Well, listen, where can we go to find out more about your museum and getting ready for opening?
Absolutely. So you can find us on all social media channels at The NAMAM. We call it NAMAM, at The NMAAM. And then you can go to the web at blackmusicmuseum.org, blackmusicmuseum.org, and you can find out all kinds of stuff. And over the next few weeks, we'll be releasing more and more details about exactly what that grand opening will look like. Memberships are available. We're doing all kinds of educational programming around the city of Nashville and around the country. And so folks can kind of plug in, see what's going on, and we'll keep you updated.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you in Nashville.
Absolutely. Oh, my goodness. That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it does. And I'm wondering what the community response is like, with particularly when you're talking about a community like Nashville that's really known. People think about music.
Yeah.
But, and then, too, to add to that, it really evokes a level of pride because I'm thinking about how people will be able to walk into our experience and see the gentrification in this way. So much of what, and you all talked about it in the interview, so much of what is emulated in different cultures is from the original. And I just always hold true that Black folks are original. We are everything and we are eternal. And so to be able to experience that and have our story told in such an eloquent and profound way, that for me, for the imprint to be on our children and especially as a reminder for our elders that hold this history, I think that is going to be game changing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me a lot of the, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the Smithsonian, the Blacksonian. They have a really amazing exhibit on Black music, and it's not as, well known that that's there because everybody focuses on the History Gallery. So when I looked at that video, I was like, oh my God, this is like that on steroids, So that is incredibly exciting. I love the interactive part of it. And I also appreciate how he said it's not so much genre-based because, sometimes people can be like, all right, well, that's not really my thing. I'm just going to tune that out. I'm going to focus on this genre. But going through the historic aspects of it and how it shaped Black life and American culture I think that's a really huge part of why that's going to be really amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, when he talked about going back to the 1700s, the one thing I started thinking about is having gone to the slave castles.
Yeah.
And I thought about lining hymns and how our ancestors, took those words and they used it as a way to really push forward. Like on the other side of those words were not freedom for them, but it was a way of really encouraging and connecting and just really passing on something that's very powerful that all these, years later, there are folks, there are churches, there are places of worship that still hold those traditions very, very strong and true. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you think about our creativity,
God.
I mean, really, there are no people on the planet that are more creative and innovative than we are. And music is one of those ways that over and over and over again, we have been the groundbreakers, developing developing entirely new genres that the rest of the world eventually comes to try to mimic. It's just incredible to be able to have that history all sort of put together in one place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not lost on me either the irony that, Nashville is known more for country music. So I like that it's bringing another little flavor to Nashville. It's like, okay, Black music is here, people. So let's go on ahead and represent.
Yeah, because we're innovators in that space too.
Absolutely.
That's very true.
Absolutely. And it didn't start with Lil Nas or whatever his name is.
Lil Nas X. It did not. It did not.
It did not start with him. And finally, there was a time when it was rare for little Black girls to see dolls that looked like them. Those times are changing. Barbie is releasing an Ella Fitzgerald doll. She follows Rosa Parks and hidden figure Katherine Johnson. The doll is part of the Inspiring Women series. Good job, Barbie. So that concludes today's Roland Martin Unfiltered. I hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to tune in again tomorrow when Roland will broadcast from Los Angeles, where he's attending the NAACP Image Awards. Until then, I'm Dr. Avis. Have a great evening, and I'll see you next time. Holla!
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So, I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
This is Diala Riddle, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay woke.
This is Director X, the director of Superfly on the red carpet, or the black carpet, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I'm Lex Scott Davis, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now.
Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? The blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.